My nickname at the park in our neighborhood is the Mayor. It's earned. I play the part. I know the names of all the parents, the toddlers, all the babies, and the baby Bjorns. I know the names of most of the dogs. I remember the names of visiting grandparents and where they're from. I don't have to try. I can talk sports or charter schools, sleep deprivation or kitchen remodel, while at the same time making sure the boys aren't pouring sand on the baby's head, peeing in the bushes with their shorts and underpants at their ankles, or chasing a ball into the street. I have a talent for benign neglect. At the park, when someone asks how I'm doing, I give them an update, generally upbeat, and follow with my own questions. I tell corny jokes. Some of the best involve Bascos, people who share my Basque heritage. Here's one. 5 Bascos are in a boat, and they have 6 cigarettes, but no lighter. So they decide to throw one of the cigarettes overboard to make the boat a cigarette lighter. All my life, I had prided myself on my emotional stability, my lack of angst. I took credit for my temperament the way one might take credit for a pleasant smile which never required orthodontic intervention. I didn't need to always process. The over-examined life was not worth living. I believed in myself. I believed that with hard work, good things would happen. I said things like, "You make your own luck." I suffered from a classic case of what psychologists call optimism bias, believing that I was far more competent and in control than I actually was. But that summer after my father attempted suicide, I stopped bantering. I cut the corny jokes from my stump speech. I found myself processing strangely with my constituents. "Hey, it's the mayor, how are you?" I'd wait for Oliver and Evan to run over to the swings or the playground structure. Then I'd say, "Well, not so good, really." "Oh? Yeah, my father tried to kill himself. He's gay. He was molested as a child." A look of confusion and then horror would come over their face, followed by a long, awkward silence. "Wow, that's hard. I'm really sorry." We would stand there for a while looking at our feet, then at the kids on the playground having fun. After an excruciating 20 more seconds or so, one of us would walk off in the direction of our children. It was embarrassing. Aside from my easily stored mayoral data set, I did not know these parents well. My closest friends had heard about what had happened from Christine. It was a relief that they knew, and I didn't have to explain anything. Most offered brief, non-specific consolations, but didn't attempt to draw me out. I wandered the periphery of our summer gatherings. A few friends from my past who lived far away listened on the phone while I talked and talked. But at the park with these playground acquaintances, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't just go through the motions. I must have had a feral look in my eyes, like I might start howling at any moment. These odd conversations happened a few times, let's say 5 times, over the course of a couple weeks, and it came to me that I was delivering these kind, well-meaning people an emotional sucker punch. You want to know how I am? I'll tell you how I am. Why was I doing this? I didn't know. And so I asked Robert, the wise, bearded counselor I'd started seeing, what he thought. Robert was a grandfather who wore sweater vests like Mr. Rogers, but he didn't counsel like Mr. Rogers. Robert did not say things like, "Why don't you tell me what you think first?" I'd ask him a question, and he'd answer, often at considerable length, effortlessly articulate for minutes at a time. He spoke in paragraphs with compelling topic sentences. He would get fired up. He would swear for emphasis, like a character in a David Mamet play. I appreciated this. He couldn't talk long enough as far as I was concerned. For years, I'd held the progressive, unjudgmental belief that counseling was a very good thing for certain people. People who didn't quite have their act together, or who were temperamentally more like Woody Allen, as himself, in whatever movie. I was more like Tommy Lee Jones, as the Texas Ranger Woodrow F. Call in the miniseries version of Lonesome Dove. Life was hard, not unlike a cattle drive from Texas to Montana in the last days of the Old West. but you weathered it as best you could. But then one night this summer, after my father attempted suicide, I was in bed again before dinner, staring at the ceiling, when Oliver came in and crawled under the covers with me. I was in my red plaid flannel pajamas. He was in shorts and his Run for the Zoo t-shirt. He rubbed my head, not saying anything. Oliver didn't know about his grandpa's suicide attempt or his grandparents' divorce. We hadn't told him. He didn't know why I was so sad. After maybe 3 minutes, Oliver left and came back. He set a glass of water and an apple on the bedside table next to the lamp. Try to get some rest, Dad. You'll feel better tomorrow. He climbed back on the bed and kissed my cheek. He stayed with me for what seemed like a long time, 5 minutes or more. Then he patted my head and went off to play with his toys. I didn't want Oliver bringing me any more apples. The sons of Texas Rangers don't bring their depressed fathers apples in bed. Robert leaned forward in his swivel chair. He said, "Maybe you don't have to be so magnanimous all the time. Maybe you just need to let your dad have it, the full dose of anger and resentment." I said, "I don't want to push him over the edge. Do you know that if your father had committed suicide, Oliver and Evan would be 8 times more likely to commit suicide themselves? They would jump from one statistical category to another, just like that. 1/3 of the insurance companies in America would not offer them life insurance. Doesn't that just make you a little angry? Suicide is the worst how dare you situation of all, the most selfish, the most egregious. Your father doesn't need your gentle acceptance. That's the last thing he needs. He needs forgiveness, yes, but he hasn't earned it. He needs to feel your full sense of betrayal and anger. Anytime your father disappoints you, doesn't even call on Oliver's birthday, or send a card, or get him a present, to take the most recent example, that's a how dare you situation. How dare you? How could you fail to even acknowledge your grandson's birthday after all you've done? Father's Day is coming up, you know. Your low-grade depression, your inability to concentrate, your lack of optimism, these weird interactions with people at the park, that's his gift to you. His inevitable ineptitude at keeping his secret has affected everyone who loves him. Some aspect of their lives is fucked up because of him. He needs your disapproval and your anger, your dissatisfaction and outrage. That might be the most valuable Father's Day gift you can give him." Robert looked at me. "Angry," I said. "Yeah," Robert said. "Think about it." "Happy Father's Day," I said. "Exactly."